Welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links video here on Duel Links Central. I want to say that I know that yesterday, it was probably yesterday at this point, I don't know when this is going up, but anyways, I'm going to say yesterday, for all intents and purposes, I put up a really fun-looking Elemental Hero deck, but it wasn't the most competitive. I didn't really misplay too much in that. I may have made one or so, but overall, the problem with that deck is it's not super conducive to a game like this right now. It needs a lot of support. There are a lot of cards that can be used in the hero deck that just simply are not in the deck right now that are available. To Jaden exclusively, right? If you duel Jaden at level 40, he has Emergency Call, he has Stratos. All these cards would help remedy the issues that this deck has currently. And mainly, the issue is that you get low on resources. Cards like Thunder Giant ask you to discard cards. You know, Tempest requires 3 cards to fuse with outright. It's kind of hard. But anyways, enough of that. That'll get better in the future, so we'll update that deck whenever that comes. But here I have probably the most competitive, or one of the most competitive possible Elemental Hero decks. Now, shout out to my friend Zenrot. If you guys are interested in Dokkan, you guys know Zenrot. Or most likely. Now, what happened with this is he and I built this deck, and I'm kind of salty because I saw like 1 or 2 people already kind of beat me specifically to making a video on it. I wanted to wait until I got that second Oversoul. There's a couple people already on YouTube, and I'm kind of salty about that, but it is what it is. So if you guys were on the Duel Links Reddit as well, you would have probably saw his post on there. I'll have that flash up on the side of this video right about now. So anyways, as far as this deck is concerned, it's a very good deck, very competitive deck, like I was saying. Now, a couple of changes I would probably make. I don't know. I'm working on Jaden. He's almost level 39. The R card that he gets at level 40 is a solid card to put in this deck for back row removal. But I find that if the deck works fine, the way it's supposed to run, the Champion's Vigilance Neo's pretty much too powerful to begin with. Definitely not a tier 1 deck, probably low tier 2, but still very fun to play with. DD Warrior is another card that's kind of iffy. You can also drop like one of these for like another Sparkman. I found that having another Sparkman works a little bit more consistently with the Oversoul card, because this is really specific to only Neos at this point, and the 3 heats may or may not be necessary. I ran the deck this way. Another card that could be considered is Hero Emerges. I already talked about R. You can run that. If you don't have the Oversouls, you can run something like Soul Resurrection. That works pretty much the same way. It may actually be a little bit better, to be honest, because of the fact that it's a trap and can activate in the opponent's turn. Emergency controller, enemy controller, excuse me, I was going to say emergency call. I just have that hero card, like all those HERO cards in my head right now. Enemy controller is another card that can be swapped out for something like a Windstorm. I found that in this specific video, that the take play was actually integral to winning like a duel or 2. So there are a lot of different ways you can run it. Now, unfortunately, it requires 3 Blazeman, because he is the most necessary card in this deck. He is the engine of this deck. So yes, that will mean that it's completely 100% pay to play. There is no free to play version of this deck, simply because they restrict your ability to get more than 1 structure deck for in-game gems. You have to actually spend cash for the other 2. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and show off some replays. I went ahead and played through several games. Now I'm actually kind of mad because there was like 2 really good duels that I did not remember to save the replays for. Like, I was just multitasking, like, okay, I'm done, let's move on. And there was some that were really good, and I didn't save them. Like, there was one against Red Eyes, and it was like awesome. But we do have some really good ones here. I'm working on ranking up because I want to get out of gold so I can get better quality replays. So I'm working on that as well. This was against a Japanese guy. I didn't even notice that, or somebody with a Japanese name. So this was a Jaden versus Jaden mirror match, as you see. Now, this one was interesting because when we get into this, you'll kind of see a little bit as to why. But I think this was the deck. Yeah, so this duel was interesting because I start off with Necroshade. Starting with Necroshade is about the worst thing that could happen with this deck. Starting with Necroshade is about the worst possible thing that can ever happen. Because you don't ever want to play Necroshade. You basically only run him to have him discarded by this thing, so you can play a Neos as soon as you draw into it, and maybe you already have a Vigilance set down. So I have to play around that the entire time, and pretty much he plays Sergeant Electro. I continue to play face down cards. He locks them down, and I make a vicious comeback, but it's fine. I didn't attack because I assumed. I've gotten really good at just pretty much assuming every card face down is like a mirror wall at this point. So I didn't attack because I didn't want to get rid of it. But then I noticed right about now that he's working really hard to protect that thing, and it's the only card he's playing. And he didn't attack. So he didn't attack that one turn into Blazeman, which actually gave me an opportunity to get the stupid Necro Shade on the field. So the minute that Necro Shade gets destroyed, it kind of can function the way that it was supposed to. In theory, I can draw into a Neos and play it. But then I decided to go offensive here, and it turns out that he didn't have a mirror wall, but it was another Rush Headlong, which is fine with me. And, I'm just going to continue to go offensive because, as you see, he has no resources aside from what's in his hand. He's going to try to protect this thing. He continues to. He actually has 2 Sphere Karibos, so that's interesting. And I didn't mind setting another card face down, even though you might be like, oh, why are you doing that? He's just going to keep locking them. I did it for the specific purpose that I knew that I was going to destroy that thing eventually. I knew it. I was going to destroy that thing eventually. He just simply couldn't handle me. I had gotten too big of a card advantage on the field. Now, at this point, I'm like, okay, I've got this. But this is where things get interesting because he goes out into the Relinquished. And, well, you may say, oh, man, your cards are face down. You're screwed. You have nothing useful, but I actually have a few things that are useful. I could have played this a couple of different ways. Watch how I decide to play it here. So I do this. I actually muted that. So anyways, I do this, right, because this is exactly what I want. He tries to take the Necro Shade, which is the smart play. It's the stronger monster. I go for the Econ Tribute take so I can protect myself for the turn because he's not going to attack his monster. So I tribute this. That puts it in the graveyard. So assuming I draw into a Neos, I'm good, right? So watch this. He tries to Twister. I don't know why people do that. It's not a negate card. It doesn't work. But anyways, I take the Relinquished, so that stops it. And then I had that mirror wall down there. And so I completely turn the tide of the duel. So I'm like, okay, if I draw into a Neos here, I win. I'm thinking like, wait, I pretty much win anyway. Because I can drop just about any monster. But I can draw any monster pretty much and I win. But if I don't, it's fine. Because if I drop a Neos, assuming he doesn't have a Sphere Karibo in his hand, if I use the effect of Blaze Man again and drop a Neos to the grave, I win. So I don't pay the cost for that. Set those down, drop a Neos, and we go for game. Go for that lethal. So we got the victory there. So that was actually a really, when you watch the replays, the speed is way up there, but that was actually a really long duel. It took like 10 minutes, and I was like, man, this is actually very competitive. So here's another one, of course. We're going to run through a few of them. Against Victor. Joey. I don't remember what type of deck he was using, but as soon as we get into the replay, I'll actually remember. I'll go second. So the thing about this deck is it really wants to go first. It wants to go first into a Blaze Man combo, start off on turn 1, because on turn 2, this was a really, hand. Really, you do not want Necro Shade and Neos. You don't want that. But to my point, this guy, the only problem with this card is if you start off on the second turn of the duel, you're innately playing at a disadvantage, because he will not let you play Oversoul the same turn. So if you use his effect, he's basically dead in the water for a turn, which is why you have defensive cards like Enemy Controller and Mirror Wall. So I go into it. He goes into the Marmorating Captain, and I think he actually gets the draw into the monster. Yep, he does. He does. And I was like, dang, he's already coming at me with 3,000 attack monsters. That's why I like the Warrior deck. It's really good for that, right? And I'm like, okay, fine, watch this. Bam! Goes Necro Shade. In that play, I could have gone Neos, right? I could have gone Neos, but I didn't mind it. I wanted him to try to play me this way. I drew into the Enemy Controller, and I was able to defend myself. I'm like, man, he has 3,000 attack monsters. How is Neos going to deal with this? But watch this. Watch what the boy happens. Necro Shade, top deck into the Neos. Top deck into the Neos. That was probably a misplay to go Necro Shade anyway to the grave, but it is what it is. Most of the time, that's the play you want to make anyway. Unless you're going super aggressive, you drop the Neos second. And then destroy that. That lowers the attack to 2,700. And then here's where things got interesting, because I was like, you know what? If he plays another monster, I'll probably Vigilance it, because I don't want the A-Forces to stack up and give that thing more attack. So if this thing battles a Dark Monster, it gets 500 stronger. So I don't have any Dark Monsters aside from Necro Shade anyway. So I just go full on. I'm going to go ham on this guy. 2,500, 2,500, crash, 25 damage. I have that Vig set down. He's not going to win at this point. There's no way. To be fair, if that monster was strong enough, he could have. But again, I'm going offensive here. Going for that. It was Hero's Shadow Scout. That's a really weird card to run in that deck. Very weird card to run in that deck. But overall, I had just enough attack to go for lethal. Because that's why I dropped down the heat. Because he only takes... It's weird because he gets to 200 from the field skill that the opponent was running, but it doesn't stack. That's why he was weaker than the Neos by 200. It just simply doesn't stack. So there's that. Anyways, we had the Joey Warrior deck, and oh, this is actually the Red Eyes one, I think. I think I actually did save it, but there was one I didn't save that was like really good, and I was like, oh, well, I wish I saved that. All right, let's go. So it's very weird because the deck has like a few different options. It's either Neos or Blazeman Neos Graveyard overkill, pretty much. So he's running the balanced Red Eyes. That's fine. And that was actually, I think, a really good starting hand, but I was multitasking, and I was like, oh. As soon as I got rid of that hand, I was like, oh. All right. Well, that was actually a really good hand to start with. Like, it was probably you know what? It was probably the best possible hand that I could have started with, especially because I got to go first. I would have just played this guy and then sent the what's it called? The Red Eyes. Oh, no, excuse me, Red Eyes. The Neos to the grave, and I would have been set. Maybe I'm misremembering that. I don't know. We'll see. If I drew Necroshade, then never mind. That wasn't a great hand. But I actually kind of feel like I just screwed into. You know what? Never mind. I'm done. I don't want to say anything crazy. So yeah, Red Eyes, Insight, Spirit, and Spirits. He's going to try to go ham on me. So I know that the second card he set was a Spirit. I activate the effect, and he actually pops me. I was so surprised to see Divine Wrath. You don't see that very often. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. I was going to send Necroshade to the graveyard and turn this into a 2 Neos party because you can actually... So here's what the interesting thing was. I'm actually glad I did it this way because had I tried to play this... Had I done this before, you can actually activate cards like this before you trigger this effect and still get your special summon off. He will stop you if you do it the other way around like I almost did. So innately, it was a misplay that worked in my favor. But I was trying to turn it into a 2 Neos play because it could have been. Had I sent the Necroshade to the graveyard, then I could have normal summoned the Neos from the hand and the Oversoul. So we would have been straight. But anyways, it wouldn't have mattered because he did have that. Activating the effect of Wyvern to bring out the zombie. He also still has that Spirit face down. I'm going to go offensive here. Just try to overpower him at this point. And then watch how this one shakes out because this was a very close duel. And I was like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to win this. But then I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, he's not running beatdown. So Red Eyes technically has no way to deal with my Neos. So I go for the aggressive, really aggressive play. Watch this. Tribute take. Gonna try to crash to get rid of both his monsters. He actually had a Metamorph, Prismatic by the way, face down, buffing the zombie by 300. But the boy was prepared. Watch this one. I was prepared for it. Econ take again. Get rid of your other monster. That's fine. Give me that attack buff. Red Eyes Spirit, that doesn't matter because you're just going to get lost. You're going to lose anyway, right? So just bam. Give me that Metamorph buff. And in fact, I think the Metamorph is the reason why he lost. I think the Metamorph, yeah, I'm definitely sure. But he probably would have lost the next turn anyway. But the Metamorph is definitely the reason why he lost that turn because that attack buff came in and that was game. So last replay I have to show you guys on this one. It was, like I said, it's a very fun deck to run. I think this one actually, oh, you know what? The one I didn't get to show that I really wanted to show was one that I actually brought out 3 Neos in that duel. It was awesome. I tributed one and then popped out another one. I used the effect of Necroshade, and then I also used Oversoul to bring back the one that got tributed. And I was like, oh, triple Neos. And I got a Vigilance. It was beautiful. But no, and it didn't work that way. I didn't get a chance to record it. Oh, I did, but I didn't. All right. Gonna restart because you definitely want to start off with a Blazeman. And you pretty much will always draw into it with restart. Restart is really busted. And so in this scenario, you have a couple different options. When you have Oversoul and Neos in your starting hand, you have a couple different options with the Heat here because, or Blazeman, excuse me, because you could technically, and I would honestly say that's probably the better play, is to always go out to Necroshade in case you dead draw into Necroshade. That's probably always a better play, but you can do it this way. Especially if you top deck another Blazeman and you haven't drawn that Necroshade. But pretty much it's always you're always gonna want to do the Necroshade combo. So I'm going to go offensive here because if I don't, I'm going to be at a disadvantage for the next turn because his attack does go back down to normal. This card definitely has its faults, but it's a very good card and very good engine for the deck. I fortunately did not draw into the card, the Necroshade card. So Neos pops out again, and I don't really get to use Neos Vigilance very often. But so for the next turn, I activate it, and oh my girl. All right, we pop out double Neos because I sent the Necroshade to the graveyard, and this is what I was talking about actually, and I think like I did this like a couple minutes ago. I talked about it. If you activate Oversoul before you trigger Blazeman's effect, you can still special summon. Had I done Blaze Man, Necro Shade, and then summoned the Neos in my hand, I could not have activated Oversoul. I would have not let me play Oversoul. So that's very important, because from here on out, for the rest of this turn, I can't special summon anything that's not a fusion monster. But since I did it that way, his effect didn't trigger. Enemy controller, he tries to tribute take. I'm like, oh, nice, that's cute. Take this lethal. All right, we go ham. We go ham. That's a very, what was that, 2 turns? Very powerful 2-turn or 3-turn combo at that point. So very good deck. Like I said, it's a lot of fun to play with. I just want to try to bring, you know, fun decks to you guys. I've said it before, I'm not a top player in this game, nor do I aspire to be such. I just want to have fun. That's all that this game's about for me. So anyways, hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, leave a like. Let's try to hit 200 likes on this video, and share it with your friends if they're interested in Elemental Hero decks. You know, share it on with your friends and any other platforms, websites, whatever. Feel free to do that. Have an awesome day. Thank you guys for the support. We just hit over 5,000 subscribers, so I appreciate it. And anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next Duel Links video.